Beautiful people, you. We got an update here on an old case. It's if you remember, a few years back, there was a church shooting in Texas. I believe this is the case. It says Sutherland Springs, Texas. The Air Force ordered to pay $230 million to victims of the 2017 church shooting. If you agree with this, please go ahead and hit subscribe, like, share, all other good stuff. Don't forget, guys, just your friendly reminder. And I appreciate you. And now let's jump into this. So the shooting was the Texas church. The guy came in, had like, I think he maybe had an AR. One of those rare instances where a rifle is actually used for shooting. You may think rifles are used for shootings, but actually more people are die by hands and feet than die from rifle wounds. That's just the flat out facts of the FBI stats every year. But that doesn't stop media sensationalism. And since we deal with facts here, we do not sensationalize that. Federal judge ordered the U.S. Air Force on Monday to pay more than $230 million to the survivors and the families of the victims of the 2017 shooting at a Texas church because the Air Force had failed to report the gunman's criminal history. Yeah, that's right. All the stuff that's supposed to keep, again, this is. I try to stay impartial, but I'm not impartial against media bias. And so, of course, I went right to the most biased place in the world, the New York Times, to read this article. But the media always likes to say to you, oh, what about the background checks and this and that, and domestic abuse shouldn't ever be allowed to have firearms and blah, blah, blah. Well, all the holy grail of government completely 100% without a doubt failed people, failed these churchgoers unequivocally. In this ruling, Judge Xavier Rodriguez of the U.S. District Court for the Western District of Texas wrote that the Air Force could have blocked the gunman, Devin Kelley, who had served on an Air Force base in New Mexico, from buying the rifle he used to kill 26 people for its failure to report Mr. Kelly's 2012 conviction for domestic assault. The Air Force must pay damages for the victims to the victims for their pain and suffering, mental anguish, disfigurement, impairment, and loss of companionship, the judge wrote. He added the case was unprecedented in its kind and scope. When you see a ruling for like damages that's like this big, it's meant by the courts to send a message. Don't do this again. This is a big slap in the Air Force's face. And again, this what it tells me is that this judge was appalled by how blatantly negligent the government was in enforcing its own rules. If the government can't just follow by the rules that they're there to enforce, then what good are the rules? Personally, sidetrack, we have way too many laws. We need to focus on a common law platform without over legislating everything. However, I'm not the one responsible for this. In July, Judge Rodriguez ruled that the Air Force was 60% responsible for the massacre. So I don't know who the other 40% are. There's a link in here. But I mean, yeah, you could make the argument that whatever 40% of the, if 200 and, what was it, 220 million? 230 million is 60% of the damages. That say like a full 40 million, the other 40% would equal like 500 million total in damages. What this guy thinks is fair. Under federal law, Mr. Kelly should not have been allowed to buy the military assault rifle or the 3 other guns. Oh, he bought 4 guns total. that explains why the judge gave the slap to the Air Force. He's convicted of domestic assault, convicted against his wife and stepson, whose skull he admitted to cracking. Oh yeah, this guy, it's not like he got in a fight and like held her wrist down or something like that. There have been some very simple domestic assaults. I mean, if if you see a red mark on somebody, you could be guilty of domestic, just depending on where you are, which jurisdiction. You could theoretically, I mean, spanking your child would be a domestic. Mr. Kelly received a bad conduct discharge from the Air Force in 2014 after almost 5 years of service. After the shooting, the Air Force acknowledged its error, saying that it should have reported Mr. Kelly's conviction to the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Conviction should prevent him from buying guns. The Air Force also said after the shooting that it was looking into whether other convictions had been improperly left unreported to the federal database of firearms background checks. Jamal Al-Safar, one of the lawyers who represented the victims, said on Monday night that the families were relieved by the ruling. The judge recognized that there must be some accountability for the violence is really important for them. National Trial Law, a law firm in Austin. National Trial Law. I love it. Victims ranged in age from 5 to 72. Among the dead were a pregnant woman and a pastor's 14-year-old daughter. Jeez. Neighbors shot Mr. Kelly twice as he exited the church. Mr. Kelly jumped in his car and led the neighbor and another man in a car chase. This is that case that when it happened is the another man. He was like, I want nothing to do with this. He didn't want to release his name or anything. But this guy was like, I forget where he's like maybe across the street. Anyway, he had an AR himself. I think it was this guy that shot, that like disabled the car or gave the fatal shot to the guy. Officials said he shot himself in the head. Well, I think the other guy had an AR too. They both would have, it sounds like, would have been the same ballistic wounds. Sure. 185-page ruling. Holy cow. Holy cow. I mean, one day, if this is needed in a, what Judge Rodriguez said, he evidently meant it to be a basis for future lawsuits in Texas, federal suits. A lawyer's going to have to read a 185-page ruling. Lawyers are going to have to be paid to read a 185-page ruling. You just don't read 185 pages in an hour. Wow. The highest single award was $7 million. Oh, so he did this for each individual. Oh yeah, people are going to have to read this whole ruling and see like what each individual, why they got a certain amount. John Porter Holcomb, who survived the shooting, but whose wife, stepchild, and parents were killed, was awarded more than $4.6 million. His wife's estate was awarded $7 million. Oh, wow. So that guy's he ends up with math million. He's not forgotten the sight of his murdered wife surrounded by their dead children. Could you imagine? I mean, honestly, could you imagine? No, I don't want you to. Don't even think about it. Don't think about it. Please don't. Just, if you're God-fearing, please remember this guy. It'll take you 5 seconds to ask something nice for him. Anyway, guys, man, that's it, dude. Air Force is responsible. This is unheard of. This is this is the first of its kind, because it seems like one to me. I know the damage is the first, but anyway, guys, don't forget, subscribe, like, share, follow, all that stuff. Got Twitter, got Rumbles, got Odysseys. Everybody's making a big push on Odyssey right now. So I've got to work over there more. I try to get myself up on podcasts too. So check out your Apple Podcasts, your iHeartRadio, Spotify, Anchor, all that good stuff. So anyway, Google Podcasts too. Love you guys. Take care. Godspeed. Till next time. Peace.